Today's video is brought to us by the generosity of Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners. You win the fight, and they will help you win the fight after the fight for the rest of your life. There's a link in the description for a coupon code for a discount for all active self-protection watchers.
Hey everybody, welcome to Active Self-Protection Extra. I've got something really special, something actually we've never done here at Active Self-Protection. There has been obviously a huge push in the media this last week from the couple from Detroit, Michigan, who outside of their minivan ended up drawing a gun. So I actually have Jillian and Eric Wuestenberg with both of their counsel with us, because you know you'd be a fool to talk to somebody in the media without your lawyer present at this point. So Jillian, Eric, thank you so much for coming and talking with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
And so before we even get talking about the actual incident, which I mean obviously has been all over social media and doing that stuff, tell me about life in the before times. Tell me who you guys are and what life is for you.
Well, I am a mom of 4 boys. Clearly, I'm a wife. I work full time, and I love traveling for work. I travel a lot for work.
What do you do for work, Jillian?
I'm actually a territory trainer and a territory supervisor.
Oh, okay, gotcha. And how old are your boys?
I have a 15-year-old, 2 14-year-olds, and a 10-year-old. So we have twins.
Oh wow, man! My youngest is 14, so I pray for your soul.
We need it.
And okay, Eric, how about you?
Yes, I am, well, up until recently, was a coordinator for Veteran Support Services at Oakland University.
Yeah.
Assisted veterans and military-connected students, which are dependents of a veteran or a military member, go to school, go to Oakland University specifically.
Go
ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I was saying, and then I also advise, or I did advise on veteran education issues to Congress as well.
Wow. And if I understand correctly, you're a veteran yourself. Tell me about your service.
Yeah, I've served active duty for nearly 14 years, Air Force vet.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for carrying the torch. I was in the Navy myself. I just made hot water the hard way, but you know.
Yeah, I guess my first mate, if you will, in the Navy, I don't know if that's the correct Navy speak, my right hand back at the office was, or is a Navy vet.
Got it.
Yeah, we got first class.
Now, obviously, it's pretty obvious to see at this point, Jillian, that we know that you carry a concealed firearm. And Eric, you as well, or no?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
And how long have you guys been concealed carriers?
Just under a year.
Yeah, just under a year.
So just under a year, so brand new at this concealed carry thing. Tell me, what got you to start carrying a concealed firearm?
There are times that I can work at times and in some difficult areas. And so for just self-protection purposes, we always want to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and our family. Got it.
It's a great reason. And tell me there then, I know my fans are going to ask that. Are you an everyday type of carrier, or are you like a when I feel like it kind of carrier?
Absolutely. I carry every day. You just never know when something could happen, and it's better to have protection for yourself and for your loved ones than to not have it.
You know, I agree with that 1,000%. And so my next question is, obviously you had to take your Michigan CPL class. Is CPL there, Terry?
Yeah, concealed pistol license, CPL.
Yeah, you know, everybody's got different terminology, right?
Right.
So CPL in Michigan, so you take your CPL class. Have you taken any other training classes?
So we're very active in going to the range. We practice very frequently together to better our skills. However, as far as formal training goes, no, I have not had any formal training.
Yeah, we're very responsible gun owners, but
Well, Well, when you say formal training, you mean outside of your concealed pistol license, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So they
Right.
yeah. So because Michigan is a state where you have to go through an 8-hour class
Right.
and do some other things. So when she says no other training, she meant no other formal training outside of that.
Right. So you've had your Michigan State CPL, which means you've been background checked, which means you've been taught the legal and moral use of force. And it doesn't really matter if you've been taught marksmanship, because this is one of those cases where the firearm never got discharged. And so it served as a deterrent function without any rounds being discharged, which is, if there hadn't been cell phone video, probably never would have made the news. So, okay, so I just wanted to kind of establish where we are. And I know my fans are going to ask, do you generally, Jillian, do you carry on your person, or do you carry off body, like in a purse or something?
It depends. Depending on the clothes I'm wearing for the day, it will determine whether I carry in my handbag or on my person.
Got it. And what's your normal carry gun? What gun were you carrying that day?
A Springfield Hellcat.
A little Hellcat. Okay. I've actually got one of those myself, in fact. My big fat meaty hands don't like it, but for people with like regular human sized hands, they tend to do okay. All right, guys. Well, tell me about that day. Why don't you guys tell me this? How do I remember correctly? It's just outside a fast food restaurant, right? That the video starts. So tell me what. I mean, you guys just went out to go get some food.
Essentially, yes. We, as you may know, Michigan's been locked down for coronavirus for quite some time, and having 4 boys that have been home, and I was working remotely. Jill was working remotely. We were hunkered down here in Michigan. We were a hard hit area, so being able to do the contactless, mobile order is something where you can just kind of get some kind of normalcy in this Corona world, and we don't get a chance to do it often with 4 kids, but this was a treat for us. So that's how that day started, was, asking folks, at our house, hey, what do you guys want to eat? And everybody said, let's go to Chipotle.
Let's go to Chipotle, as one does. I mean, who doesn't love Chipotle, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so Jill, tell me how this started, because by the time that everybody else sees things going, there's already quite a kerfuffle going on by the time somebody whips out a cell phone and starts to record, right?
Correct.
So from your perspective, tell me how did this start?
Well, I walked in and grabbed our food off of the very first table, our mobile order bags. We had 2 large bags. And as I was walking out, I noticed that only the left-hand door was accessible. And so I opened that, and someone, a young lady in a yellow dress, came very close. And I wasn't sure if I bumped the door or the person with my bag. But one of the bags bumped into a young lady. And
So one of your Chipotle bags?
Yeah, one of the Chipotle bags. It took me just a little bit to realize that had happened. And as I was getting back to our van, I took a peek back to see, did I bump someone? Did they acknowledge that I bumped them? Or did I bump the door? I wasn't sure. And sure enough, I must have accidentally bumped her. And that's when everything started. I immediately put my left hand up and said, walk away. Just walk away. And it continued to escalate from there to where we see the video start to come in.
So before you put your hand up and said walk away, Jill, tell me, like, what was her response? I mean, okay, so you bump somebody with your bag. I mean, that kind of stuff happens every day, right? You just expect, hey man, watch out. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Have a nice day or whatever. How did it get to where somebody pulled the phone out?
I'm not 100% sure. I don't think that my response of walk away, it was very quickly, the other young lady was agitated very quickly. I don't think that my response of walk away was what they were wanting to hear. I more or less didn't understand what was going on. I didn't know why I was being yelled at. I just know that I was getting yelled at, and the young lady continued to come closer and closer to when she called her mom to come over and aid her as well. And that's when I had the young lady at my front and the mother at my back. And I continued to say, I feel threatened, walk away. I repeated that many times. I feel threatened, walk away.
And if you look at the video, John, you know, one other thing you want to keep in mind is that before she got in the car, she asked for the police to call the police about at least 4 times.
Wants to violate a 15-year-old.
No, I'm asking a question. She's a child.
She bumped into me when I
So
was
if she did something wrong, she needs to apologize. If she did
This
something
ignorant
wrong,
woman bumped
she
into a 15-year-old,
correct?
and you're on camera.
Okay.
You're feeling threatened.
Okay, well go in.
No, Mom.
I got this.
You're blocking me from getting in my car.
No, we weren't. No, we weren't. No, we weren't. You're ignorant.
Go ahead, call the police.
You know, there were repeated, you know, we're going to call the police. She's like, please call the police. And every time Jillian would attempt to have a conversation, to at least talk, she was cut off. And again, you look, she was, for all practical purposes, trapped in that area. You know, the van's on one side, the 2 women are on another, and right behind her is a railing, so she had nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's an important factor to keep in mind, is that the entrance to the minivan, the passenger door and the sliding doors were blocked by the mother and by the young teen. And you can see that on the video just by their placement. But of course, the van is behind the video.
Right, of course. I mean, you can't. So this is one of the limitations of cell phone video and of surveillance video, right? Is that you get a perspective on what happened, but you don't get a fully orbed perspective of what happened. And one of the things that I tell people all the time as a force science analyst is what I see with my eyes is not what the camera sees, and will never be what the camera sees. So you got to recognize, it's one of the things that this is what I do for a living, is analyze camera footage. And one of the things I keep telling people is it tells us some really important things and gives us like a third party watching what's going on, but it doesn't teach us everything by any stretch of the imagination. There's a whole lot else going on.
Important issue for you, John, is, of course, is that Jillian can't go left because of Mom. She can't go right because of her daughter. And she can't get in her van, and she can't back up because of this metal railing. She's trapped.
Yeah, you're kind of trapped in a spot. So, I mean, and I heard you say several times, I feel threatened, right? I feel threatened here. Now, you guys did eventually make it to the car.
Yeah, people had asked me, where were you? And I was actually in the van. Jillian is a very usually outgoing person. Obviously, with coronavirus, we tend to stay a little to ourselves, but she's usually very complimentary when she talks to people. So I assume they were having a conversation probably along the lines, oh, I loved your dress. And they were talking outside the car. I had no idea until it escalated that I finally said, oh, there's something going on. And I had to actually go out to put her in the car. So as I exit, that's when the daughter notices that I'm coming around, that she finally starts to back up to where I can put Jill in the vehicle.
Okay, so you guys finally make it back into the vehicle. So that's you had no idea at that point, Eric, that there was something going on here, that something had happened. Like, I mean, obviously you step out of the car and there's yelling going on and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, so I realized something was going on because she was trapped, and then it was, I finally heard. It's really quite insulated vehicle, and so when I got out. Obviously, I got out because of that, and so I physically got her in the car. Now, they didn't, stand in my way though, but they were standing in hers.
So there's an interesting point here, and it's one that I just want to stop and make for everybody. That I know a lot of people are asking, and even I asked, like when I first watched the video, is that you come around, put Jill in the car, and then you kind of have some words with these ladies, like, hey, back off, what's wrong with you people? And my first thought was, wait, why didn't you just like, hey, I'm sorry, like get out of my way, whatever. But if you don't know what the heck is going on, like, you step out and like, why are you yelling at my wife? Like, what the heck is going on? Get out of my space, would you? I think that a reasonable person, not knowing that, okay, we'd had a bunch of arguments here or whatever, would have just jumped in and gone, well, my wife's a good, sane, sober, moral person. And so why would you argue with my wife? What's wrong with you? Get away from here. Put your phones away, for God's sake.
Yeah, so I didn't understand exactly what words were exchanged, but I did clearly hear that I was threatened myself, and they were threatening my wife. And when she threatened to kick my white ass too, obviously I was like, what is wrong with you? That was my initial reaction. Why would you threaten me? All I did was come around and place my wife in a vehicle that you would not allow her to get into.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously when somebody threatens to kick your ass, that's a thing, right? You know, and you know, when you talk about, does somebody have the ability to do that? Is there an opportunity to do that? Did they put you in jeopardy? If that is their manifest action such that their manifest intent is that it puts you in jeopardy? That's the thing. Now, might be a question you don't want to answer. And if you don't want to answer, don't answer. But it seems to me, it sure looks like you guys were parked in a disabled parking spot. Is that a factor that's going on here?
I am a disabled veteran.
Well, I am too, my friend. And does that, in your estimation, does that affect your ability to do stuff in the self-defense realm, those kinds of things? I mean, like my disability from the VA comes because I, wrecked my back in a car wreck. So I still go train and all that stuff. But I don't have a disabled placard as well. Is that something that affects your everyday life and your ability to defend yourself with your hands, sir?
It does. And that's, it is. It's a physical disability. I have several issues. I have a 100% total and permanent disability rating. So
okay,
issues, physical issues.
So there's another significant issue that I don't think gets addressed here. If I have a veteran with 100% significant disability, I don't think most people know this. And again, I don't want to get into your, into your business, but to get 100% disability from the Veterans Administration is not, that very few people get that. That's a pretty significant thing. If you're 100% disabled, that means, not to put too fine a point on it, but you're probably not going to join an MMA gym with 100% disability.
No, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So again, for my back and my knee and my tinnitus and all that stuff, I ended up with about 40%, which I have one friend with 100% disability, and that's from significant injuries that he got in Iraq. So that's a big deal when you say, wait a minute. Now, I guess the question then, so next thing as we think about, all right, so you guys did get back in the car. Hallelujah. I think that was a great decision. Let's get in the car and get the heck out of here.
John, one other thing, John, one thing, so you're fully clear on this, the threat still continued, okay? The threats continued. It wasn't just that one threat against Eric. There were several threats that continued, and one of either the mother or the daughter or whoever was filming, one of them said, again, I will dog y'all's old ass or something along those lines, okay?
Yeah, I said it. You say something, I'll beat your white ass. I will. Do something. Please put your hands up.
Do something.
Please.
Who the do you think you guys are?
Who do you think you are?
Your wife think you are.
You calling her name? She did nothing to you.
Yeah,
I didn't. No, you didn't. You're very racist and ignorant.
You're racist because you're calling
No,
her
you
name.
bumped it. She bumped into me.
So the threats were still continuing even as Eric was attempting to get himself back into the vehicle.
Yeah. Okay. So, and I think that's definitely there, right? So now, so you guys
John,
get in the car.
Before you go on, I'm sorry, just
Go ahead.
make a point, because it happens very quickly in the video, but you can see it as Jillian's getting into the vehicle. You'll see Mother advance towards her and make a threat. While Eric is helping Jillian into the minivan, you'll see her actually approach Jillian, and then that's when some more threats are made, and she calls her a bitch.
Okay. So you both get in the car. We have these two crazy people, and they are screaming and hollering threats at you that they're gonna, kick your white ass and these kinds of things. Okay, fine. What is going on here? How does this play out? And you start to pull out. You start to back out of there, and I don't know that I can see it. I mean, I could see what looks like Mom kind of at the back of the van. Did she like smack the back of your van with her hand?
Yeah, so even before that, John, if we could back up a little bit, Jill compelled, obviously there was a lot of things that were talked about that we were racist, and Jill felt compelled to tell her, we don't know what happened to you, if you remember what she said word for word, but, we're not racist just because we're white. And that's exactly what I said to her when I rounded the front of the vehicle. You're yelling at us and you're calling us racist because you were making, fun of my wife or calling her, saying mean things, I think is what I said to her. So she did. She rolled her window down and she's like, I'm sorry that you feel this way, but and I'm sorry if things have happened to you, but we're not racist. And so she felt compelled to say that. It didn't obviously go over well because they were still yelling and screaming at her. That's why I rolled up the vehicle and like, we're leaving and I'm backing up. And that's that.
Yeah.
Now the daughter's, I assume, is the daughter that is up front filming as we're backing up, and then our vehicle locks up. And at the same instant, it's also a huge audible boom, which almost sounded like the glass had blown.
And let's talk about why did your vehicle lock up? I think that's a great question that people would probably want to know.
Yeah. The newer vehicles, at least our particular minivan, it locks up when it is an immediate something's behind it, like something jumps in front of it, or if you're backing up too fast, it just locks up the vehicle. And so that's exactly what happened. Is we're going back, and the next thing you know, it's boom, and an instant vehicle locks up.
Okay, so your vehicle just disabled itself. It's done.
It just stops right where you're at.
The brakes are automatically applied.
Yeah.
So this is a big deal. I know a lot of folks are asking, like, why didn't they? Okay, so she smacks the car. Why don't you just drive off?
Yeah.
There was also a vehicle next to us. So the way we were backed up, we weren't able to turn the car and leave at that point in time. There was no obstruction in front of us.
Well, you hear this big audible boom. Your vehicle locks up. I drive, my wife drives a brand new Honda Odyssey. And, it's one of my jokes is that it's got like a nanny feature that it won't even let you leave your lane, for gracious sakes, let alone if something happens, it'll break the car. If there's somebody going too fast, you're going too fast or whatever. It doesn't like me at all because I drive too fast. Now I have never tested its, it feels an impact thing. But that might actually be something interesting that I'll ask one of my staff to do today, to just back up and then have them whack the car real hard and see what it does.
Well, it wasn't the whacking of the car that caused the vehicle to stop. It's that Mom was at the corner of the rear of the vehicle. It sensed her presence with the parking sensors, and it applied the brakes. And it wasn't just one thump on the back of the vehicle. There were about 5 handprints on the back of the vehicle, and it wasn't just Mom that was beating on the car.
Okay, so, all right, we're starting to get a picture now, right? So, okay, my car won't back up any further. I can't get forward because I got another car in my way. So I got somebody standing back there, and yeah, that's true. My car will stop if it feels like you're going to hurt something or beat yourself up. So I'd assume yours does as well. So you decide to get out. Now we got to get out. So Jill, we can't see. All we can really see. So for a while there, what happens on the video is daughter comes running. So phone goes, and you can't see anything, but you can hear a bunch of screaming. And then by the time it comes back, you've got a gun in your hand. Can you tell me what you saw?
Well, John, let's talk about why they got out of the vehicle, because I'm sure, that's probably the $1 million question. Like you said, Jillian just said, they couldn't go forward, they couldn't go backward. But at that point, they got out of the vehicle simply because in Michigan, if you hit something or someone and drive away, guess what that is? You've now committed a felony. That's hit and run. Okay.
Well,
heaven forbid if someone's injured.
Yeah, I mean, heaven forbid, right? So I know people are going to ask that question, but why didn't you pull away? But I mean, the reality is you couldn't pull away. There's nowhere you're going. And so if you can't pull away, that's like telling, somebody, well, why didn't you sprout wings and fly away from a gunfight? Well, I just didn't have the ability to sprout wings and fly away from a gunfight. And so if I don't have the ability to do something, I don't have the duty to do it. So I know folks have asked, like, why didn't you just drive off? Well, you can't. You couldn't. Your car's decided to stop. I can't pull forward. I can't go backward. I'm stuck. Now, I would say as a self-defense trainer, now I'm not saying you guys have had this training, okay? So, but as somebody who does this for a living, I say this on my main narrated videos all the time, that if your car is immobile, then it becomes a trap for you. And so getting out of the car becomes reasonable because then that regains me some mobility. A stopped car, a car that is trapped in its spot, is a place where I am stuck and I can be easily victimized. So it's reasonable, in my opinion, as a subject matter expert, to get out of this car to regain some mobility. Now,
it's absolutely the case. We're both veterans, and That's absolutely the truth. Unless this is a hardened vehicle, you don't stay.
And I got plenty of friends who are Iraq vets that, if your vehicle gets disabled, then you get the heck out of it, unless it's a hardened vehicle. And a minivan, I don't think qualifies as a hardened vehicle. So, Jill, I gotta ask, you get out of the car, we see, obviously daughter with the cell phone and mom standing there with a cell phone. And kind of the next visuals we get is you drawing a firearm. Tell me what you saw there.
I got out of the car and immediately checked to see if there was damage. We have no idea at this point. Is a window gone? Is it broken out? It was so loud, it was deafening. And I get out and I look and I turn, and almost instantaneously, the mother is within 2 feet of me. There are other people there as well. The daughter is running back. She actually shut my door that you can see in the video. I didn't shut my door, the daughter did. And so she was immediately on me within feet of me. And other people were there as well. And my first thought was, I'm going to be attacked. I'm going to die today in this moment. And it was the scariest thing I've ever lived through.
Okay. And of course, I mean, that's the day you never want to have come.
No responsible gun owner wants that. No human being wants that.
So, so you draw your firearm, and so you have mom there, you have daughter there. You said there were other people there as well. Were they just bystanders? Were they participating, or were they just standing around filming too?
I don't know. People were continuously getting closer. At the beginning of this, there was a gentleman on the patio of Chipotle with someone else behind him. And as this continued, they continued to get closer. They left the patio and were now in the parking lot with us. And no idea of who is friend, who is foe. We just know that we are surrounded.
So, okay, so you made the decision. You felt in that moment, oh no, I'm going to die here today. So you draw your firearm. Now, I also noticed as a self-defense trainer, the sounds that I heard of you chambering around in your firearm. Is that your typical? Do you typically carry your firearm without a round in the chamber?
I do. I know many people who carry chambered. It's just a personal decision for me not to. It's a decision that I thought long and hard about. And for myself, I choose to carry unchambered.
And that's a personal decision. As a firearms trainer, I would tell you, I'm going to really encourage you to rethink that process, because when you needed that gun, you needed it right now. And thankfully, again, in this instance, it is a non-issue and a non-starter, right? And I will tell you, we've actually here on the Extra channel, we have had board certified attorneys say your decision is the correct one. I disagree with them. And I'm not here to chide you, Jill. I'm not here to tell you that you did poorly. I just want to say, okay, so here's some, here's a thought. That's if there's one thing that I would say, wait a minute, we got to change that. That's the one in my mind. Now, maybe that's a silly and little point, okay? I also want to ask, because you chambered the gun, but one of the things that I noticed is that you didn't have the gun up and pointed at them. You actually had the gun lowered below. Is that something you were trained to do?
No, it is not. It is just my body's natural reaction, I guess. I wanted to be able to see everything, and with my firearm up, I have less of a field of vision. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say that right there was a really good instinctual action that I actually teach that. I see a lot of people in defensive gun uses. There's another one that's kind of big in the news right now with somebody pointing an awful lot of guns at people. But the fact that you came to what we call a low ready position, that the gun was ready and deliverable, but below your line of sight, gives you better eyesight. And again, my opinion is less of a threat to the people around. And so it's a safer alternative all the way around. So of course then,
sorry.
Say again?
We practice when her and I practice together. Again, we don't do formal training, but again, we practice drawing our weapon and chambering. We practice trigger discipline, and we practice keeping our field of vision open. So
Very good.
we feel our weapon is a shield until it needs to be a weapon.
Yeah. So obviously, at some point, then that deterrent effect had its effect, right? You said, "Back off, get away from me," and that's pretty much where the video itself ends, right? So it's, you know, they're going to sit there and videotape you. Oh, look, she's got a gun on us, or whatever. Tell me what happens from there. So eventually, obviously, they backed off because nobody got shot, right?
Correct.
Well, actually, John, if you look at it, it's a little more than that. The person who was retreating was, in this case, was actually Jillian. Jillian is retreating, and they are still coming towards her. If you look at where she is from, you know, from that video camera, she's kind of in the middle of the van, and she starts backing up, asking them, again, giving clear, concise, direct commands. Get away, get away, get away.
She got the gun on me.
Call
He
them
hit me
now.
with the car. Call him. I'm telling. Get the
Call
license
the cops.
plate. Get the license plate.
Get
Get the license plate now. Cause you were never about to hit me with the damn
Don't
car.
you
about to
no.
hit me with the car? No, both of y'all put the guns on.
Yeah.
Okay? Call Richard back up here, the police. Call Richard back up here now.
I got it. Don't you jump behind my
no,
car.
no, I ain't jumping behind your car. What
Don't you Mom, stop moving. Stop, Mom. Get the back. Back the up.
And John, I want to make a point here because there's two videos. You said that's where the video ends. There's actually two videos. One is taken by Mom, who's standing in front of Jillian, and you see the pistol pointed directly at or near the camera that Mom is holding. Mom doesn't move back. Mom stands her ground. Jillian is there, and the distance between them is probably less than 24 inches. And
Very close for sure.
Right. Now, the other camera angle is taken by one of Mom's daughters. There's two daughters there. One of Mom's daughters is taking the other video, and that's the 3-minute and 9-second video. And that one doesn't show exactly where Mom is located, although you can get certain shots from that video that give you indication that they're toe-to-toe. And probably from the shadows on the ground, you can see other information about how far away Jillian is from Mom. Jillian can't back up again there because she's got the minivan behind her. And Mom is sitting right there, and she's not going anywhere. She's not backing up. And if you watch Mom's perspective, the video that Mom is shooting, Jillian's backing up to the back of the vehicle where Eric was. And you see her retreating. And that's where her voice starts getting louder, and her voice is getting elevated, and the pitch is increasing. And Mom is actually advancing. You see the camera moving towards Jillian and moving towards the back of the vehicle. And Jillian is retreating at that point. And that's an important consideration here as well.
Well, I think it definitely shows a significant amount of restraint. If you felt in that moment, you said, wait a minute, I got multiple people here who said they're going to hurt me. I have a husband who needs me to make sure that he doesn't get hurt in that moment. And so now does it start to become more reasonable to have a gun in your hand? It does, straight up. And I think we definitely see you retreating on camera, giving verbal warnings. And I'm going to leave it to your attorneys to talk about the defensive display of a firearm in the state of Michigan. Obviously, every state's a little bit different on this one. Were you in the great state of Arizona? We have the strongest defensive display statute in these fine 50 states. But Michigan is a little bit different than Arizona in that regard. So, okay, you retreat. At some point, did you end up back in the van?
We did. Eric had, as I was trying to protect us, gone and called 911. He was on the phone with 911. They had instructed us to do our best to leave the scene, the immediate scene, for our safety.
Okay.
To wait nearby. Don't leave, wait nearby. and we drove 500
About
feet
500 feet to the end of the
away
parking lot.
and waited with our car pointed towards them so we could at least have a vantage point of if anyone was approaching. And we waited for law enforcement to arrive.
So, Eric, you won the race to 911. Were you the first one to call 911? Were there other 911 calls coming in before you?
Yeah.
We don't know that because, again, as you know, some of them come in at multiple times. So we don't know if someone had called and said, hey, there's something going on out here at Chipotle, as they were getting out to, defend themselves. We can't answer that. But for sure, as you see Jillian outside the vehicle, Eric was on the phone. He kind of, I don't want to use the term disappears, but he's no longer on video because he's back in the vehicle calling 911 at that point.
So you guys went and waited 500 feet down the road just so then that way you're away from the thing. I say this all the time on camera that it's reasonable if you still fear, you've used a defensive firearm. Wait, I'm still in fear. There's buddies around. There's bad things. I got to get the heck out of here. As long as, again, you're on the phone with 911 and telling them where you're going to be and I'm not running away, I'm getting to a safe place. It's very reasonable, especially because they told you to, right? Okay, the 911 operator told me to do this. I obeyed. So now police showed up, and how did it go when the police arrived?
I come from a long line of veterans, law enforcement, and so I know that when law enforcement gets there, they need to know that they are safe. Mm-hmm. So I dropped my magazine, I unchambered, and I made sure that my weapon was safe. I placed everything on the ground, and I got down on the ground and just said, it's safe. I am safe. I am safe. My gun is safe.
Okay.
And that's when we started working with law enforcement.
Okay, so did they initially did they cuff you? Did they search you? Did you do all that stuff?
Well, they did what normal law enforcement would do under the circumstances. They took precautions to protect themselves, and they were treated no differently than anyone else who would have been in that particular situation.
Okay, good. And that's normal, right? This is a normal thing. Cops show up on scene when we've heard there's somebody pointing a gun around. We're going to make sure that everybody's safe. Okay, fine. Now, it took a few days, but you guys are facing charges at this point.
It actually took approximately 12 to 18 hours from the time the incident occurred to the time that it was broadcast that we were going to be arrested and charged.
We were actually arraigned in under 12 hours.
Wow. So I didn't look up just before this. Again, it's 6 a.m. here in Arizona. You'll have to forgive me. What did they end up charging you with?
Both of them are charged with felonious assault, which in your state, in most states, would be kind of aggravated use of a weapon.
Yeah, aggravated assault in Arizona. And then,
in Michigan.
What's that?
It's a 4-year felony in Michigan.
I mean, wow, I think that's going to be an interesting one. So tell me what that means. What does that mean for your guys' life right now? So you guys are under indictment for a felony. So that means you've lost your concealed pistol licenses for the time being. You've lost your ability to carry a firearm. So tell me what's that done so far?
Well, we're vulnerable. We now have a target on us. And we have no ways to protect ourselves or our family.
Mm.
We literally woke up to news crews pounding on our door, and we have no means to protect ourselves.
John, let me say a couple of things, and this has been very hard on these folks, and what a lot of people don't understand. And I've been there. Dean and I were there talking to our clients. They're getting literally threatening phone calls, okay? People telling them to watch their back. It's difficult for them to go out in public, okay? Eric has lost his job, okay? Not only does he worry about, again, what's going on from the criminal side, how does he support his family now, okay? they're in a position of everything that was right with the world at about 6 p.m. On July 1st is now, it's like bizarro. It's just been inverted. It's a whole different world. The emotional things that they've shared with Dean and I, and again, on top of that, in today's world, 3 words that no one wants to hear anymore, which is "you're a racist," that's turned into this. And unfortunately, the sad thing is, without any due process, these people are immediately convicted of this. This has gone viral, and it's white woman pulls a gun on black teenager, and their attorney, they've hired an attorney, I'm not sure why, but their attorney is going the narrative of, well, guess what? I'm tired of unarmed black people having guns pulled on them. And I won't be the first to say this has nothing to do with race. These 2 good, upstanding, moral people basically have been attacked. They've been threatened. And if you go back, they just went to get food to feed their family. The aggressors here were not our clients. The aggressors were the people who were behind the video.
And John, if you happen to watch the national news, not only have the Wuestenbergs been victimized here through this incident and this interaction, and then victimized again through the being charged with a crime, but the national media and social media attacks have been vicious, and the misrepresentations by major networks on national evening news misrepresenting what has happened and taking the video that is available and editing it down so it appears and plays into the narrative that you have just one more white person pulling a gun on an unarmed black woman. And that's really unfortunate.
Yeah, obviously, and I think this is why we talk about in the legal system about the totality of the circumstances, right? I think that this says a couple things to me. Number one, I think it says that video is great and it will help us to establish things. And actually, if I can speak a little bit to you guys, I think that as hard as it is to watch that and have it vilified, I think ultimately that video is going to really help you. Because it actually says a few things and it shows a few things that otherwise it would just be, well, this is what we said happened and this is what they said happened. When we can say, instead, when your counsel can say, no, watch right here in the video and you can see this thing happen and you can see that thing happen, and these things are marks of reasonable people. And so when the finder of fact, whether or not, honestly, I don't, as somebody who sees this stuff all the time, I think that were it not for our current social situation, a prosecutor is kind of a fool to bring these charges, quite frankly. Doesn't mean prosecutors don't do foolish things, but here's this crazy thing that we have in America. We have this thing that the criminal standard is that the state has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that what you did was wrong and what you did was illegal. And there's plenty of wrong things that aren't illegal. When we say all the time, what does it mean to have a reasonable doubt? Well, it means that there's a plausible alternative theory. And what you guys have described to me today is clearly a plausible alternative theory of this is why we did what we did. Is then what we did reasonable? Well, of course, then the finder of fact will figure that out. But it sure seems to me that this is, there's more to the story than the video shows.
Well, John, what isn't being told is, at the end of the day, everybody went home and nobody was physically injured.
Yes.
The question is, what would have happened had the Wuestenbergs not been able to defend themselves? Because this situation was escalated several different points that you can see in the video, and the escalation was increasing exponentially. The question is, what would have happened? We'll never know, but we can surmise what might have happened had they not been armed and they didn't defend themselves.
We can certainly speculate on what would have happened, and I don't think any of it would have been good. And so I'm glad you guys get to go home to your boys, and that even though you're being punished with the process right now, as hard as that is, that you're there to be punished, to face that, because your boys need you, and you need
John,
each
that's
other.
part of the problem. As you said, technology can help us, but it can also hurt us. Within minutes, They figured out where we live and my phone number and my email, and they've gone through and hacked everything, and they're showing up. So no, we don't have a home with our boys. We have to be on the run, essentially.
Wow.
Here for our safety or for our boys' safety. And we're a victim here, and yet we have to, watch over our shoulder at every turn.
Yeah, I think that's
3 words in today's society. And, we look forward to our opportunity to go to court and get these charges either dismissed or found not guilty. And as Dean said, you're the first person we've talked to publicly, John. Thank you. And we're not trying to spin a story. We just want the truth out of what actually happened and let people decide for themselves. And we believe once the truth is out, people will see that, this fine couple acted in a very reasonable way based upon the facts and circumstances.
Yeah, and I think that, what is the standard that we have to be held to, right? So we only draw a firearm when we are, and as you did, Jill, when we have an impending deadly threat, a threat of death or great bodily harm to us and to ours. And multiple people threatening to beat our ass and showing the ability, the opportunity, and the manifest intent or the jeopardy to do that. If it was one person and they're a small person, maybe we go, that's kind of not very reasonable. But when it's multiple people, when your vehicle's disabled, when I have a spouse who needs me to protect them as well, that starts to become real reasonable. And so that to me looks like really reasonable behavior. Although again, what the video might show may not look like that until you explain. So here's the thing: when people ask questions like that, when we look at it when they're under the cool eye of hindsight, and that's what we're supposed to do in the legal system, right? Is look with the coolness of hindsight of no emotion here. Let's see what happened. That starts to seem real reasonable. So,
John, what you cited, I'm sorry to interrupt, but what you cited was actually the standard for the use of deadly force in Michigan. And in Michigan, the display of a firearm is not deadly force. It's considered non-deadly force. And when you can employ non-deadly force in Michigan, the standard is substantially less than being faced with the risk of death or serious bodily injury. It's merely to repel an imminent assault.
And so Michigan has that codified in black letter law that that the simple presence of a firearm is physical force, not deadly force?
There's case law that establishes the display of a firearm alone is considered non-deadly force. The statute provides that you can use non-deadly force to repel an imminent assault. So it'd be similar in this circumstance to using something like a pepper spray or something like that.
Yeah, I think that that is an amazing and an important thing. So again, Michigan has case law on file that says that the use of a firearm in a display is a use of ordinary physical force, not deadly. That helps you immensely, and that you can use ordinary physical force to repel the threat of ordinary physical force. So again, why is the prosecutor bringing charges here? I mean, clearly, at some point we have to ask, okay, so I know some of our watchers are going to want to help. They're going to want to help with your mounting legal bills and those kinds of things. So how are they going to do that?
Folks can go to standwithjillian.com. Jillian was with 2 L's, and there'd be an opportunity there to make a donation. It certainly would be helpful in this case. As we mentioned, Eric has lost his job as a result of this. Don't believe that was appropriate under the circumstances, but employers will cave to a media narrative and the threat that would ensue when people really get angry about these things and they hear, oh, well, there's racism involved, everybody should lose their job in our cancel culture. But they still have to provide for their family.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. You got to provide for your family, and these 2 fine gentlemen to either side of you, God bless their hearts, they got to feed their families too, right? So we will put a link in the description to that. So last word to you two. Jillian, if you had something to say today, what would it be?
honestly, there is so much hate and destruction in the world today. I don't wish harm on anyone. I don't wish harm on myself or the other family. We as a society need to start to just love each other. And that's what I had hoped for that day. And it didn't happen.
Yeah. Eric, last word to you. What would you say today?
We just wanted to feed our family and go home and go about our business before all that started, and that's still what we want. We want to have our normalcy back. Our 4 boys are in sports, and they'd like to be able to participate and do those things and just go back to the way things were before July 1st at 6 o'clock.
Oh man, and I really hope it gets back to that way quickly for you. And I will say as well, I'm hopeful, I'm confident that at the end of things, this is going to come out in your guys' favor. And I'm very hopeful that it will. It sure seems the facts mount that. I will say that right now, Team Active Self-Protection is going to be in Detroit in 2021, hosting a course in that area. And when we're there, you guys are more than welcome to attend. We'd love to have you. And that's on me. Okay. So we would love to supplement your ranged practices and those kinds of things with a couple of days of good training. And I get it with 4 kids, sometimes you go, I'm not able to take whole weekends away from stuff, but if you can, and if you can make it, we would love to have you. And I will say both these men that stand beside you, I consider to be excellent at what they do. So you have, whether by stumbling in by some good thing or just the providence of God, found 2 fantastic attorneys who know what they're doing here. And I'm confident that they'll work this through. So again, friends, link in the description if you want to help. There's a lot going on here. So Jillian, Eric, thank you so much for being willing to come on and talk about what happened that day and answer some of the questions that I know the world's asking.
Thank you so much for having us. Again, you're the first person we've spoken to, and it feels like a weight off of our shoulders to be able to say what we need to say.